So we've just got to Albany Bay, and it's gorgeous. Even though it's wet and raining, it is gorgeous. We're just doing the whole water and oil check and check the belts and just give everything a good look at. Today's day 40 on the road, and you know, I haven't had the bonnet up once. I've had to unscrew the fishing rods to get them out of the way, because I can't just lift the bonnet whenever I want. It's only 4 screws just on there, 4 screws and they're off, they're out of the way. So it's time to do a few checks under the bonnet. The first thing you want to do is when you're checking your oil, wipe the dipstick so there's absolutely nothing on it. Give it a quick dip, and you can see there, that's the full line. We need about 1 litre in it, but the car's also on a fair bit of an angle. It's about 4 or 5 inches down on the driver's side. It does make a difference. So while the rods are off the bonnet, and I can open the bonnet whenever I want, this afternoon or tomorrow I'll go and get 1 litre and put it in, and 1 litre will be too much when the car is straight. Just topping up the washer bottle with Kurt's drinking water. Washer bottle's full. So we've been on the road for, this is day 40, and we've done about a bit over 4,000 kilometres. So as far as servicing, changing the oil, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't need to be done until 10,000. I'll probably do it 1,000 k's early, but you know, we're on the sand dunes and up hills, towing a caravan, it's working a little bit harder, so I'll probably change it 1,000 k's earlier than 10,000 scheduled servicing. So while the bonnet's up, you want to check things like your engine oil, your water, a full visual look of everything. Check the tightness of your belts, and you know, make sure you can visualize the level of your brake and clutch fluids as well. And you know, just check your you can check your battery terminals, make sure they're tight, make sure they're not corroded up. If they are, you can tip a bit of hot water on your batteries. It'll get rid of all that acid that's on there. But it does mean there's a glitch in the electrical circuit somewhere that causes that. So you might need to get an auto elec or someone to have a look at that down the track. It's not an emergency, but it does need to be fixed eventually, or the acid in the corrosive material will actually eat your terminals off until the point that they fall off. It does take about 1 year, but you got to keep an eye on it. Yeah, so I've just checked the voltage system on the alternator off the battery. It should be running at high 13 volts. When you build the revs up a little bit, it can go into 14 volts. It's running at 12, and it's not going higher or lower. So it tells me that the alternator gauge inside the car's been flickering the last few days. It's playing up. So now the bonnet's up, I'm testing it, and hence the reason why I bought an alternator at Burson's. It was Burson's in North Geelong there. Sorry, in the CBD in Geelong it was, right next to Texas. In Mercer Street. So they chopped me out with a new alternator, and as it turns out, a bit over 4,000 k's into the trip, I need it. So it's going on. So over 30 years ago, it's making me feel old talking like this, but over 30 years ago I'd done an apprenticeship as a mechanic. Several other courses after the apprenticeship, and you know, to do with welding, electrical, computers, all sorts of weird and wonderful and bizarre stuff to do with the automotive stuff. It was when the computers just started to get introduced to cars, to the automotive scene. So general mechanics, we needed to get up to date with how it all works so that we knew how to fix things. So one of the tricks that I learnt 30 years ago, I'm going to show you. It's different. It's saved me quite a few times over the years. So all it is, it's because I'm changing the alternator and I've dropped a bolt down behind. I sit me nuts and bolts up on the battery because I haven't got a bench. So I've dropped one of the nuts and washers off the side of the battery, and it's gone down the side, and instead of pulling the battery out, this is one of the ideas that I learnt over 30 years ago. So you wrap your wire, you know, it doesn't matter if it's 3 mil or 6 mil, you wrap it a lot right around your screwdriver. It works on spanners, it works on, you know, lever bars, shifters, it'll work on anything steel. So you wrap it around, and what you do is you touch each end on the positive and negative side of the battery, and I'll show you what it does after that. See that little spark? You need one good spark, and then you're right. You see, you lose that, you get that off. And you can pick your washers up, whatever you've lost. Your bolts up, whatever you've dropped. It's even strong enough to pick your spark plugs up if you drop a spark plug. So you can see it's a handy little trick, that wire method, and it saves you leaving your nuts and bolts down beside the battery, or even pulling your battery out. It saves you heaps of time. Yeah, so I just had one of the locals ask me at the caravan park, do you mind if we go into the barbecue area and practice our Ukulelean? Never heard that word. I probably have many a times, but I'm not into it. So I sort of had to search far and wide to bring that one to the surface. But it's good that people are so considerate, because we're just opposite the barbecue area. So these guys are about to do a whole lot of singing. They're easily, I would say, in their 70s. And it'd be interesting to see what this sounds like, because at the last bit of the footage you're going to hear them. So just one other quick thing before these guys get fired up in the background barbecue area. I can hear them playing with their little Lithuanian, whatever it was, their little guitars with 4 strings, he was just telling me. Before they get too loud, one other thing to remember is when you're on and off the road a fair bit, or you know, you've done a lot of kilometres, at least once every service, change your air cleaner, or at least take it out and blow all the yucky dust out of it. And while you're doing in the air cleaner, it's very important that you put a rag down the snout that the oxygen feeds the engine. You don't want dust and all that crap going down there. So make sure you clean your air cleaner properly and thoroughly, so that the engine runs like a brand new. This thing's got over 600,000 Ks on it. The motor's never been touched. It's still got the original turbo on it. I'll have to show you that in a minute. This thing's untouched just because the old fella that I brought it off in Brisbane looked after it like it was his baby. And now, you know, it's doing another trip around Australia, and hence the reason why it's still going, because it gets looked after. It's a Toyota. It's a winner. If you've got a Toyota, you know what I'm talking about. You're on a winner. They're very hard to break. They're very reliable, and they're just magic to drive. They're comfortable. They've got everything at the touch of your button. And this thing's, you know, this thing's got quite a bit of age about it. This is a 97 model, so you know it's like 27 or 26 years old. It's it still goes strong. But don't forget, when you've done your servicing and all your checks, check things 2 or 3 times. I've got to ask you, steer away from shifters. Use the right spanners, unless you're absolutely desperate. And you know, if all else fails, give it the clout. But I'm only joking, of course. Make sure you're thorough. We're a long way from home. Things have got to be right. Have a good look underneath your vehicles, and you know, the rest is up to the gods. But you'll get there. Oh, the Kurt's come to help me. Oh, he's a beauty. He's such good company. He's so good to have around, aren't you? Eh? Oh, you're so bloody good to have around. Yes, you are. So now the alternator's fitted, and it's too noisy down under the bonnet to do a film. So I'm going to do it down the back, because there's a wire here that runs the fridge, and it tops up all my batteries while we travel directly from the alternator. So you'll see what I'm talking about. It's the same as checking it on the battery as checking it down here on either of these Anderson plugs. So you see here it's on 0. With the engine off, it'll sit somewhere around 12 and a half volts. And now that we've got the engine running, move. Come on, kitty. So with the engine running, it's running at 14.1 volts. And if we were gonna lift the revs up, you would notice that would increase just a little bit. It will go up a little bit with the way it works inside the alternator. So just remember, when you're away, you do need quite a lot of tools to do all your own stuff, or if you get anything done when you're traveling, it will cost you a fortune. So you do what you can. If you're not sure how to do it, you can drop me a line on Aussie Adventures. If I can, I'll check it most days, so I will respond to you immediately. Or you can talk to one of your local mechanics and get some advice. Most of them are really good to talk to. Or you can get on YouTube and knock into the search bar what it is that you want to fix, and you'll see it there firsthand. Someone's already done it, and try and copy off what they've done. It'll save you a lot of money. So other than that, happy traveling, and that's just a little bit of service, little bit of information on this particular vehicle on the road. Happy travels. Margs is spoiling us again for lunch. What have we got, love?
Toasted cheese, tomato and chicken sandwich.
Cheese, tomato and chicken, toasted sangers. I can handle that, especially after working on the car. Pardon?
And salt and pepper.
Oh, and salt and pepper. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
These guys were so nice to meet. They were so nice and polite to come and ask me if they could do that while I was working on the cruiser. Beautiful people. They're from Perth. They've travelled all over the country several times, and they're part of the Morris Minor Club here in Australia, and they go to all the events all over Australia and have done for years. Mr. was a banker and Mrs. I think was a stay-at-home mum, but I'm not sure. I didn't ask that question, but she didn't answer me when I said, what did you do for a living? But there they are. They're gorgeous, both of them.